Have you ever felt like the walls were closing in on you, like life pushed you into a dark corner where escape seemed impossible? Imagine hiding in a place that feels more like a grave than a home, yet somehow discovering that very cave becoming the doorway to your healing. Welcome to Midnight Psalms, a space where we walk through the shadows of Scripture and discover the hope hidden in the night. If you've ever felt crushed by life's weight, you're not alone. Here we learn that even in the darkest caves, God is still writing a story of light. David wasn't always the king everyone admired. He was once just a broken man on the run, hunted down by someone he once loved and served. The cave he found wasn't glamorous, it was cold, damp, and suffocating, the kind of place you'd only run to when you had no other option. And maybe that's where you've been, running to places not because they are safe but because they're the only place left. You may not have soldiers chasing you, but maybe fear has been pursuing you day and night. Maybe betrayal has driven you into isolation, or anxiety has cornered you so tight you can hardly breathe. David didn't choose that cave because he wanted solitude. He ended up there because life left him no other path. What's fascinating is that caves in the Bible were never meant for comfort, but they often became places of revelation. The cave stripped David of titles, applause, and everything that looked like success. Alone with nothing, he discovered who he really was and who God still was. And isn't that the hardest part for us too? When life strips away all the things we thought defined us, leaving us face to face with our raw self. It's in those silent and lonely places where we either break completely or begin to rebuild. For David, the cave was not just an escape from Saul, it became the womb of a king, shaping a heart that knew how to rely only on God. Think about how we often see caves in our own lives. Dark seasons, emotional valleys, hidden struggles no one else can see. They may look like punishment, but sometimes they're the very place where strength is reborn. David turned that cave into a sanctuary through worship and prayer. He wrote Psalms not because he felt victorious but because he was desperate. And maybe that's your invitation too, to bring your rawest emotions, your fears, your tears, and turn the darkness into a place of prayer. It doesn't erase the pain instantly, but it transforms the cave into a sacred space where God meets you. We often imagine strength as standing tall in public, yet David teaches us it begins by kneeling in the shadows. His Psalms echo with honesty. He didn't hide his fear, his anger, or his questions. And isn't that what we often avoid? We think we need to look strong, but caves don't ask for masks, they strip them away. There, David's tears became worship, and his silence became trust. If you've been hiding your struggles from the world, maybe the cave season is God's way of telling you that you don't need to hide from Him. The cave was never meant to kill you, it was meant to shape you. Caves are also places of waiting, and waiting is something we all hate. David could have left that cave in anger, trying to force his way back to the throne, but he chose to wait on God's timing. And waiting is where most of us get stuck. We either give up or try to push doors open before they're ready. But waiting in the cave teaches us patience, humility, and trust. It's a furnace that burns away pride and self-reliance. David learned in that cave that a crown gained by his own hand would never be as secure as the one placed there by God. Maybe your cave season is not a delay, it's preparation for a promise that needs roots before fruit. Imagine David's men in that cave, whispering that it was the perfect moment to take Saul's life, to end the chase once and for all. Yet David refused because caves are not just about survival, they test your integrity. Anyone can act holy when life is comfortable, but in the shadows, when no one is watching, that's where character is forged. David chose restraint over revenge, and that choice set the tone for his entire reign. Perhaps your cave is testing your character right now, asking whether you'll give in to bitterness or rise in mercy, whether you'll let the pain define you or refine you. And there's something beautiful about how God doesn't waste caves. Later, David looked back and wrote that God was his refuge, his fortress, his hiding place. But he never would have known God that way if he hadn't been forced into hiding first. The darkest seasons of our lives often become the clearest testimonies when we come out the other side. That's why the cave becomes a sanctuary, not because it's comfortable but because God shows up there in ways we never expected. If your life feels hidden, isolated, or forgotten, remember, God is still present in the shadows. Sometimes we think we're alone in the cave, but David's story shows that God often sends unexpected company. Other broken men gathered around him in that cave, men who were distressed, indebted, and discouraged. And together they built something that would later become an army of greatness. Isn't that powerful? The cave became a place of connection, not isolation. Maybe you've been feeling like no one understands your pain, but you might be surprised at who God brings into your dark season. People who don't look perfect but carry the same scars and end up walking the journey with you. What if the cave you're in is not the end of your story but the place where your deepest identity is uncovered? David never saw the cave as glamorous, but he left it with songs that we still read thousands of years later. That's the power of dark seasons. They produce treasures we couldn't find anywhere else. And maybe right now, your tears, your prayers, your journals, your whispers in the night are becoming songs that will one day encourage someone else. The cave feels like hiding, but God is using it as writing. The writing of your testimony, the shaping of your destiny. So maybe the cave you're in right now isn't a curse, it's a classroom. It's where faith grows roots deep enough to carry the weight of future blessings. It's where the noise of the world fades and the voice of God becomes clearer. David discovered that the cave wasn't just a hiding place, it was holy ground. And so can you. What feels like darkness can become your sanctuary if you choose to see it as the place where God refines you. Don't despise the cave, it may be the very place where you find your true strength. If you are enjoying this video, please like, subscribe and hit the notification bell to help this channel reach more people. Now let's continue. David's cave experience whispers something we often forget. Our lowest moments can become the birthplace of our highest callings. The cave stripped him of everything familiar, but it also stripped away distractions that once blinded him. There, in the shadows, he realized that his identity was not built on applause or titles. It was rooted in God's presence. Sometimes we cling to things that look like security, but God allows caves so we learn what truly holds us together. Maybe the silence around you right now is not abandonment, it's God giving you space to discover who you really are without all the noise. In many ways, the cave mirrors our internal battles. The loneliness, the unanswered prayers, the restless nights. We wrestle in silence, wondering if God still hears us. David cried the same words asking, "How long, O Lord?" That's the raw honesty of someone who feels forgotten. But what if your "how long" is actually God's invitation to trust Him longer than you ever thought possible? Sometimes faith isn't about instant miracles, it's about holding on one more day, one more prayer, one more tear. And it's often in those lingering questions that God is quietly strengthening your soul. The cave also reveals that true worship doesn't come from victory, it's born in desperation. David didn't sing psalms from a throne, he wrote them in hiding, while trembling, while uncertain of tomorrow. That's the kind of worship that touches heaven. The kind that comes from brokenness, not polish. And maybe that's your story too. You don't need perfect words, you just need a heart honest enough to cry out. When you bring your unfiltered self before God, the cave slowly shifts from a place of fear into a place of intimacy, where your whispers echo as prayers. Think of how caves echo. Every sound bounces back, magnified and haunting. For David, his fears echoed, but so did his prayers. And that's what caves do in our lives. They amplify whatever we release. If we let bitterness out, it multiplies. If we let faith out, it grows louder. The cave becomes an amplifier of our heart. What are you releasing in your dark season? Complaints or trust? Despair or hope? The cave doesn't change what's inside you, it reveals it and then it makes it louder, shaping you for the future. We also see that the cave didn't last forever. David didn't die there, he walked out with a new strength, a new perspective, and eventually, a new destiny waiting. That's encouragement for you too. Your cave is temporary. It might feel like forever, but caves are seasons, not life sentences. The day comes when the same God who met you in the shadows calls you out into the light. And when you walk out, you won't be the same. You'll be stronger, humbler, more grounded, and more aware that your story isn't just about survival, it's about transformation. Even the name Adullam, the cave David hid in, carries meaning. It means refuge. Isn't that powerful? What looked like a prison actually carried the name of protection. Sometimes the very places we curse are the ones God labels as safe havens. Your Adullam might look like a setback, a closed door, or a lonely season, but it might be the exact place where God is shielding you from what could have destroyed you outside. What feels like rejection may actually be God's redirection towards safety and preparation. When we think about David's life, we often rush to the throne, to his victories, to the crown. But without the cave, there would be no king. The cave was not a detour, it was part of the design. And maybe that's what we need to remember about our own stories. The hard seasons aren't interruptions, they're essential chapters. You can't skip the cave and still step fully into your destiny. Every dark night, every hidden tear, every moment of isolation is weaving strength into your character that will carry you when the crown finally comes. So maybe today, instead of resenting your cave, you can start reimagining it as a sanctuary. A place where you're not abandoned but being shaped. A place where you're not forgotten but being refined. The cave is not where your story ends, it's where your heart learns to trust in ways comfort never could teach. It's where the whispers of fear turn into songs of faith, and where your weakness becomes the stage for God's strength. Like David, your cave may be the very space where you learn the language of intimacy with God. If there's one thing David's story proves, it's that caves don't disqualify you, they prepare you. The crown is coming, but it can only rest on someone who has been humbled, tested, and refined. And right now, your cave may be God's preparation for a future that requires more than you think you can handle. Take heart. What feels like the end is often the middle of a much bigger plan. You may not see the light yet, but if you keep walking, keep praying, keep holding on, the day will come when your cave becomes your testimony. So if you find yourself in a dark place today, take courage. Your cave can become your sanctuary. Like David, you may walk in trembling, but you can walk out transformed. Don't despise the shadows. They are shaping you for the light that's ahead. And as you hold on to hope, remember you are not alone. Every cry, every prayer is heard. If this message spoke to your heart, consider joining us here at Midnight Psalms, where we explore how God meets us in the night and turns darkness into light. Subscribe, share this with someone who needs encouragement, and keep walking. Your cave is not the end, it's the beginning of something sacred.